And then I'm going to share my desktop with you. This is basically what we're going to cover today. A lot of navigation. I'm actually going to take you in a Canvas course that you're very familiar with and kind of show you around and show you areas to be really focused on. And then we're going to talk about etiquette in online courses, how to post comprehensive discussion posts, which is a lot of what online courses are involved with, a lot of the assignments, and then actually submitting assignments and projects. And then at the end there will be some general tips for best practices for online courses. So I don't know if you've taken any online courses before.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
This is the first
so
one, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, there's different platforms that universities carry. Actually, different platforms in which they offer online courses through. So our Bellevue College used to go through Blackboard, and as of last year, they switched to Canvas. So now all of their online courses are through Canvas, and I'm going to kind of show you. I'm going to actually scroll in so you can view it a little bit better, and then we'll go into the actual Canvas and look at it even closer. But so Canvas is the main platform that we use here at Bellevue College, so that is primarily what we're going to focus on. So just in the real basic terms, it's really important to be familiar with your layout, whether you're using Canvas, Blackboard, or some other platform through your online course. It's really good to get the lay of the land even before your course starts. It's really good to just navigate, play around in there, click some of the tabs, and just get familiar with where everything is. And most importantly, I always tell students to locate the syllabus. There is almost always, well, the instructors have to provide students with a copy of the syllabus. So usually there is an electronic one. That's actually the one that you see here that's denoted with the big circle. And then in this Canvas course, there actually is a copy of a paper syllabus, a PDF version is available right here. Now, not all online courses are going to have a paper copy and electronic copy, but you can always ask for one. There will always be an electronic copy because instructors have to provide students with the syllabus. But if you actually want a paper one to refer off of, you can always request it, or they may already have it somewhere in the course. So I am going to share my desktop. Let's see if we can. Okay. It's going to look a little funny here. Oh. Okay. So can you see this here?
Yes.
Okay. So this may look very familiar because I believe it was a course you were in, the Intro to Health Environment. Okay. So this is kind of my example that I'm using. And it looks like we have a couple more participants coming. So I'm just going to hang up for a second here. Looks like Gita has joined us, and Bob is working on establishing audio. So I'll just slow down a little bit so these guys can get up to speed. But, okay, so here we have your basic Canvas course. And on this main page, the home page, which is highlighted here on the left, so on the home page, instructors typically introduce themselves or post the syllabus here on this main page. The nice thing about this home page is right up here in this gray box, it has areas to focus on that are important. Like here's a syllabus hard copy right here for you to download. Here's the discussion index, assignment list. These are all great items to focus on, and it's really nice that this instructor has put them all right here. Something really important to note is not every Canvas course is going to look like this. The instructors can play with Canvas shells and create them essentially however they'd like. So the layout, you're always going to have these tabs at the top, Over here to the far right, inbox, settings, logout, that's always going to be there. And these bars on the left-hand side will always be there as well. But as far as the actual home page goes, it may look different for every course. It really depends on the instructor. But I guarantee there's always going to be a syllabus for the home page and probably a brief introduction about the instructor and something else really important that you always have to find. How do you contact that instructor? Well, this instructor has their contact information located right here, and that's always very important. So if it's not on that first home page, make sure you are able to locate it. So I would say the number one thing is be familiar with your layout. So you're going to play around, press buttons, navigate this left-hand side column, get a feel for what's in here, what is located where. Then you really want to know where the syllabus is, if there's a hard copy and a digital copy. And the next important is how to contact the instructor, because you are going to be contacting them. And just some basic features of Canvas. So there are always announcements. There's this announcement tab in the left-hand column. I'm going to click on that and give you an example here. So these announcements were all posted by the instructor. And announcements go to your email, which is kind of nice. It's not, you get them both in your Canvas and in your email box. So you can always see when there's been a new announcement posted in your class. And I have done a handful of announcements that I'm sure you've received, and you can see when I have made those announcements and where they're located. So announcements are always important to pay attention to. Now, this is where it gets tricky. So with online courses, there's different areas for assignments or tasks that you have to complete. There's modules, assignments, and discussions. And again, the instructors may put them in different places. Some instructors like to put the modules under assignments and vice versa. Discussions are typically always discussion posts. The primary focus of why we have discussion posts in online courses, and a lot of other different platforms use the discussion post format. So this is very common across the board. And it is mainly used for participation. So it also opens for conversation with students. It kind of is a dialogue, and it helps us learn more on a different topic or subject. So a typical discussion, and we're going to go more into depth in this in a little bit, but a typical discussion post is going to be the instructor asking the students in the course about something that was covered most likely in a text or a chapter in a text or maybe a supplemental reading. They're going to ask you to maybe summarize a specific subject, or they're going to ask you questions on a topic, and you have to respond. And then everybody in the course is also expected to respond, and then you're expected to also comment on other students. And this opens up that dialogue and really makes learning more active, and just the more you contribute, the more, I should say, comprehensive that your learning experience is going to be. So I really encourage people to post as much as you can. But discussions overall are just a portion of your grade. So just keep that in mind. So we're going to look at the assignments. And something important to note with assignments is your due dates. Really, really important. One of the key aspects of all online courses and online learning is time management. It's huge, because the reason the reason online learning exists is it's an atypical classroom format, is that students are typically working or they have other things going on that they can't attend a normal in-class session. So, and it's also typically a condensed learning style. So you have a lot more information in a lot less time frame, a much shorter time frame. So the key is going to be time management here and scheduling and budgeting all of your assignments and all of your work for the quarter. Now, it's really important to look at all the due dates and know when everything is due and when it's coming up. This is great because this instructor actually posts all the due dates right here on the right side. There's also some helpful aspects such as a calendar. I'm trying to see if I can pull up a calendar. Okay, so on the right-hand side, it says coming up. Quizzes, Module 9 and 10. Okay, so that lets me know right away. Sunday, I have 2 quizzes due on Modules 9 and 10. So there is a full calendar, which if you click on this little button here, so there's a huge calendar, and this will bring up, I'm sure, Sakshi, you have seen this before, but there will be all sorts of items on here. Now, the problem with this is it's not foolproof. A human entered in all of this information on this calendar, so it may not always be correct. So I like to suggest students to refer to it, but don't count on it. So I want you to use your own planner or organizer or however it is that you keep track of dates and due dates. Use that as your primary reference. Write down all the due dates or type them into your cell phone or smartphone or whatever it is that you're using to keep track and keep organized. But I like students to refer to this calendar, but don't use it. I have seen issues with online courses where not everything gets entered in onto this calendar. And then the students are surprised when something comes up or something was due and they weren't aware of it because it didn't show up on this calendar. The interesting thing is if you're in multiple classes, multiple items are going to show up on this calendar, and you can actually select views of which courses you actually want to look at, but it will have everything on here. But I highly recommend writing your due dates down. I actually use a physical paper calendar, if you can use to put all my due dates down and all when there's going to be upcoming exams, etc. But within a Canvas course, there are a couple areas where you can look at due dates, and this is one of them, this calendar area. And then also in the coming up section usually tells you what you have immediately within the next week or so. Okay. But then you can just navigate through and see, okay, so we're just on the assignments tab. And this has a whole bunch of due dates, so this kind of gives you an idea. This actually has the discussions in here too. And this one actually has video lectures. All classes are a little bit different when on the discussions. So I'm not going to click on grades just for the privacy of students, but grades is always where you're going to be able to track your performance. Actually, if I do a student view, on the settings here, I'm actually in a teacher view. So now I'm going to go into student view, so this is what you guys can actually see. Okay, now if I go on grades, you can see it. So here, since this is kind of just a demo, all of your point values are going to be on the right-hand side here, and what you actually scored on them will be in the left-hand column here. And here, again, the due dates are all listed very nice, but you can see how well you did on certain quizzes, what you scored on certain discussions, etc. And then at the very bottom, there should be an overall score. And this will kind of give you an idea of how you're doing in the class. My biggest complaint with Canvas is that it doesn't give you a total point value, say that there's 300 points total in the course, and you've completed, you're up to like 50 points out of the class. It doesn't give you, it kind of gives you a total as you're going through the course. So you may be in week 2 of the course and it says you're at 80%. Like, it kind of gives you week by week. And it also depends, your grade is going to depend on how soon instructors grade assignments and quizzes, et cetera. So your grade may not reflect real time. So you may have completed a quiz or turned in 2 or 3 assignments, and your grade still says maybe you're at 73%, et cetera. And it does not reflect actually where you might be because the instructor has yet to grade those assignments. So that's something to bear in mind with your grade. Just if it's not looking as high as you think it should be or it's lower than you think it should be, sometimes that plays into it, is the time frame in which the instructor takes to grade the assignments. Mm-hmm. People actually list out everybody who's in the course. You can break it down into students, instructors, et cetera. There's usually a lot more people in the course than actually just students. For example, my name is listed under there, even though I'm not a student. Here's conferences. I don't think we typically use that function in our online courses, but maybe other instructors do. Chat is kind of an open forum for if you want to chat with perhaps another student is online at the same time you are. That's a great feature to use, although it may be rare that students are on at the same time, but that's always something to look into. Mm-hmm. And then something really great here through Bellevue College is the Academic Success Center. This is a really great resource. While it is on the main campus, they actually have quite a few online services available. So the reading lab, the writing lab, if you want any of your assignments proofread, you can submit them to them and they will get them back to you in a timely manner and give you constructive feedback. If you just need any assistance on assignments, or perhaps you're in an online statistics course and you may need a little tutoring or help with assignments, you can contact the math lab. But these guys are really great with working with you if you're an online student, so they don't necessarily make you go in to the online or to the main campus to speak with them in person. The only other thing I should mention, I don't know if there's one in here, but I typically put in a student forum. Yes, here's one right here. And usually I put them under discussions. And some instructors actually create these, and sometimes it'll be an extra tab on the left-hand side. But the student forum is specifically for you guys to communicate with each other. So it's kind of the same as that chat function, but it's not, doesn't have to be in real time. So if you have a question that maybe you contacted the instructor and you're still waiting to hear back on the answer, you haven't heard from it yet, maybe one of your fellow students knows. So you click on this forum, the student forum tab, and post your question, and maybe one of your other fellow students will know the answer and they can chime back. Or maybe there's just something you guys want to discuss and have more input from your fellow classmates. So post something on there and see what responses you get from your fellow classmates. But the nice feature of this compared to the chat is that students don't have to be online. They can just post whenever they check in. It doesn't have to be, they don't have to be on the computer at the same time that you are to actually respond and have an ongoing conversation. All right. And then, so that was kind of all the different tabs on the left-hand column of Canvas. So you also have these top tabs here. This is another way to access the calendar. The calendar's right on the top here. Grades, again, also a tab up here. Now your courses, if you're in more than one course, there's going to be more. And I've been in a bunch. So I have a huge master list, but that's kind of another area to check your multiple courses. And it may get confusing. If you are in more than one course, sometimes you have to make sure, you have to be aware of that many more deadlines, that many more assignments due, that many more discussion posts, and you have to kind of bounce between 2 or 3 sometimes. But it is doable. And then lastly, you have your logout and your help. So it's always important to know where that help is too. If there's something technical in Canvas that you need assistance with. that will often help you there. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the presentation here and just take a minute.
Jennifer, what's the voice thread under the discussion?
Oh, yes. I'm glad you asked. That is a special feature I'm trying to add into our online courses, in particular, our certificate programs. VoiceThread is considered to be, it's a little software program that is considered a living discussion, and it kind of enhances online learning. And what it is I can pick a subject. So, for example, I had picked learning styles, and you can go into the VoiceThread on learning styles, and there is all sorts of information. There's a PowerPoint presentation, there's Word documents, there's Excel documents. It's a place where you can store a whole bunch of information on one topic, and you can actually comment and make there's voice recordings. I actually recorded in there, and you can hear me talk. There's text comments, but students all get to log in and can comment and voice record and actively speak in the VoiceThread. And it's an ongoing conversation as well, and it doesn't have to be in real time, kind of like we were discussing previously. But I'm trying to see how it works. If it is something, I'm kind of piloting it, and I'm seeing how it would work in an online course to see if it is beneficial or not. But I kind of would like you guys to test that out if possible. So I'm going to go back. Okay, here we go. So back to the presentation. Okay, and for those of you who are not here, it looks like Andrea, I don't know if she has audio, Bob and Gita. So we're going back to the main presentation here. So I was kind of navigating through Canvas there, and I was mentioning that the first important things of your online courses, and Bellevue College uses Canvas, is to be familiar with the layout. That's why I went through the entire, all the different tabs and where everything is located in Canvas. So that's really important. And then to locate your 2 syllabi, or at least 1 syllabi. The electronic copy is almost always on that home page. Okay, let's see. Who wants to go through here? Okay. So I kind of have a top 10 list of the most important information you want to know when you're starting an online course. And I've kind of touched on these. So number 1, where to find those syllabus. The syllabus is going to be your gospel for the course. It's something you always want to refer back to, so you want to know where that's located. I also mentioned the instructor's contact information, very important. You want to know how to contact them if you have a question. A lot of them have their email and sometimes a phone number listed on that home page or on the syllabus, is always located on the syllabus. You can contact them through the message feature or through the email in Canvas, or you can email their BC College email address directly. So those are 2 ways you can contact them, or you can physically call them if they leave their phone number. Due dates in the calendar, really important for your time management to know what is coming up when, what's due, really important for your whole online learning experience. Then your assignments, discussions, and modules, that's going to be the bulk of your work. What you're going to turn in, what you're going to be learning, that's all the next important aspect to focus on. And then number 5 actually talks about supplemental materials outside of your modules, assignments, and discussions. Some courses actually have you go outside of Canvas to utilize the materials. So OLI is the Online Learning Institute. I know our statistics course and a couple other of our courses in particular use this information from the OLI website, and we actually have our students go to that website and do modules and complete activities, and it's completely separate outside of Canvas. So it's important to know if your course, if your online course has any of that. And then also supplemental reading. Often your instructors, especially if you don't have a textbook for the course, they're going to really refer you to read this article online and that article and refer to this website and that website. So make sure you can locate all of that information. Very important to, and make sure you're able to access those links too, because the instructors will usually put links to those websites and those articles. Then also number six, grades. Please keep an eye on your grade. Make sure you're on track and have a good feel for where you are at all times throughout your course. 7 is to pay attention to the announcements. Some instructors use those more than others, but it's a great way to get important information out, especially if there's technical difficulties. If students are having trouble accessing a link, etc., the instructors often communicate that way and let students know to troubleshoot that aspect. And then email. It's kind of interesting, I found, of how many students will contact me through Canvas versus directly emailing me. I don't mind either way because they both work very efficiently, but that's another aspect that you can email your instructor or anybody through Canvas, or you could directly email them. I also showed you that student forum where you can communicate and contact your other students or other classmates. That is something that I typically create and put in our online courses, but sometimes instructors will have them there. Sometimes they call them student lounges. They go by different names sometimes, but you almost always have one available to you. And if you don't, you can request one. It's really easy for an instructor to make one if there is not one already there. And then 10, just the help button. I am kind of the technical support for Canvas for our certificate programs in particular, but not every online course has the, has a technical support person, so there always is that help function there.
Right.
So this we've kind of already touched on, just really important aspects of Canvas that coming up. I've got that circled on here of what deadlines and items are coming up within the week. I kind of listed the top 10 items here. So if you could find all of those things in here, you're in good shape. The name of the instructor, there's their contact information, where are your due dates, where are your assignments, your grades, etc. Your student forum, where you find that, your help is right up here. So we're going to move on to etiquette, or what's called Netiquette these days. And you may have all heard of it, but it's really just the aspect of reminding people to be respectful. It's kind of sad, and you wouldn't think we'd have to do that, but with the computer and kind of being with the more anonymity comes more boldness and freedom of expression. When we don't see each other face to face and we're not in a physical classroom with people, people tend to feel more comfortable communicating or expressing stronger feelings than they would in a traditional classroom setting. So we always remind students to use respect and consider your tone when you're emailing the instructor. If you may be frustrated, or if you've contacted the instructor a couple times and they have not responded to you, try to remember that they are human. They often have a full-time job of their own. They may have other pressing things come up. They may be sick. There may be a valid reason for why they haven't responded to you in a timely manner, although they should. It's just nice to, sometimes in email, we all know that emails can be misconstrued, and it's hard often to determine tone sometimes in email. But when in doubt, just do not send the email or take it down a notch. But always when you're posting discussions to and submitting assignments, just think of all the other people and all your classmates and how are they going to interpret what you are posting. just be mindful and be resourceful and positive. Yes. And I just covered this, but when in doubt, we're going over the time a little bit, but that should be okay if everybody stays with me here. When in doubt, do not send the message. If you're questioning an email, you probably shouldn't send it. Or take some time away, take a breather, and then come back to it. If you still feel the same, I'd be surprised. But this is, again, just bearing in mind your tone. Also, perhaps have another person read your message. That's a second opinion. See if it's proper, or see if it's, let's say proper, but just appropriate is the word I'm looking for. And yeah, my best advice is when you're also posting on a discussion board, or you're going to send an email to someone or an instructor, pretend you're in a physical classroom. Is it a question you would ask if you're in a classroom? Is it something you would necessarily say in person or to the instructor's face or to another classmate? If you wouldn't, then that's a good indication that it probably shouldn't be sent. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go on here. So we're going to move on now, now that we briefly touched on Netiquette, of how to post comprehensive discussion posts. So discussion posts being a large part of participation and a large part of online courses. This is an example of one discussion post that I took from that same course we were looking at earlier. So this is very typical, where the instructor asks a handful of questions. The most important aspect when replying to a discussion post is to make sure you've answered every single question in full. So I have this a couple times. But also nice here is the instructor actually refers to guidelines in participating in discussions. But there's still many questions. I find a lot of students have questions surrounding these discussion posts. So what is most important when you're posting discussion posts? So the first one was, make sure that you're responding to the question fully. Make sure you're going to have to read that, especially that post I just showed you. There's a lot of questions here. And there's even questions within questions. The first one even, can you suggest some benchmarks to measure the healthcare systems? Okay, so that means you have to give examples of multiple benchmarks and then defend your choices. Okay, so that's another component to that question. So there's multiple examples to be given there and multiple answers. And then some of these are a couple questions. Number two, there's two questions there. So you just have to fully read, and it may take you a few times going through here to make sure you've hit and answered everything completely. Second is the length. I always get asked the question of how long should my post be? So I would typically say 4 to 5 sentences per question. So you would just, a basic summary or a basic paragraph for each question is typically acceptable. And if you're not comfortable with that, you can always ask the instructor. When in doubt, ask the instructor of what they would like to see, because they're going to be the one who's grading your work. Mm-hmm. Content, very important. It's the third aspect of posting. Is it necessary to post supplemental information and resources? Absolutely. Instructors really like it when you refer in your answer to other articles you've read or give examples from other sources you've pulled from rather than just the text or just the article or example that the instructor gave you. If you can, it shows that you're going above and beyond, and it also contributes to the overall conversation. It improves the content and learning for all the other students. So it's a really great aspect too. If you can find other supporting information or supplemental information, and often I've seen when students reply to each other, they're like, oh, have you checked out this website, or what do you think about this aspect? it's great because it really just builds on that knowledge and adds to that conversation. So that leads into number 4, posting and commenting on other students is important, absolutely. I highly recommend it, and it just increases your participation too. If you just post that you'd answer the question, that is baseline. But if you go above and beyond and you add the supplemental information and respond to other students, that's great. That's really outstanding. And then also, when concerned about links and content, you can also ask the instructor, but look at what your classmates posted. We always know when a student is just doing bare minimal when we look at posts from, say, 6 students and one of the 6 has just like 2-liners for every question. Obviously, you're doing the bare minimum work, and it is seen, and the instructor knows that too compared to your classmates. So if you ever have questions about the length and intricacy of your post, look at your students' and your fellow classmates' work and compare what you have or what you're about to post compared to what has already been posted. So this is going to be similar, submitting assignments and projects. Sometimes this can be a little bit tricky because there will be different mechanisms to turn in assignments and projects. So sometimes instructors will use Dropbox or another mechanism. So what I recommend highly for that is just designate a little extra time. Don't wait till last minute to turn in an assignment in the event that that little mechanism or software doesn't work. I've seen it a handful of times that students have trouble getting that submitting assignments every now and then. So just give yourself a little bit extra time, a day or 2 even, to make sure it goes through. And also, if you're really concerned, especially if it's a big project or a large essay, you can always email it to the instructor, email their BC, and send it as an attachment if you're really concerned about them getting it through the online course, because then they have 2 copies of it, especially in the event that it doesn't go through. At least they have a copy in their email box. But again, with assignments and projects, make sure to answer everything in full. Make sure your grammar, I've also seen even with adult students, grammar is not always the strongest area. It's always great to have a second pair of eyes, have somebody else proofread your assignments, posts, projects, papers, before you turn them in. Sometimes you don't always have that time for somebody else to look over it, but even if it's a spouse or someone you live with, to have them read through it real quickly before you submit it is always a good idea. So proofread and edit when you have time before submitting these items. And then I'm going to leave you guys just with some tips for best practice. Really, with time management is key with online courses. I can't stress that enough. So make sure you budget enough time when you're taking an online quiz or an online exam. A lot of time, in most instances, there's a designated time frame that you have so many minutes to complete that exam or quiz. So you really have to be careful and make sure you're doing it at a good time of the day when you don't have to rush off to do another activity or you have other obligations throughout the day. Typically in the evening, if you have kids at home, really great to do your quizzes and exams either in the evening, late evening when they're asleep, or on the weekends. But just giving yourself that extra time to not be stressed out and have nothing pressing when you're about to take those. Also, when you're submitting projects or essays, give yourself a little time extra. Give yourself a little buffer when you're turning them in because technical difficulties do happen. I mean, this is an online course. This is the nature of it. Complete your modules on time because it's really, when you are behind in an online class, it's really hard to catch up. I mean, it takes that much more work than in a traditional classroom setting, and it's because you have so much information condensed into such short time frames. I highly suggest just preparing everything, making sure you're on task at all times. Yeah, don't wait till last minute to take your quizzes, submit assignments. contact the instructor sooner than later, even if you think it's not the best question. Go ahead and do it. Yes, ask questions. And yeah, just really budget ahead of time. And I even had one tip was to bump up your deadlines, but mentally. So if you had a project or a big essay due in 2 weeks, say your deadline is sometime next week, and then that'll give you that extra time to budget accordingly if anything happens. But also you're going to be ahead of the game. But I had seen that one student had always set deadlines a couple of days ahead of time in the event that there were any technical issues. So always be aware of deadlines. Make use of that student forum. Pretend you're in a physical classroom setting. When in doubt, would you ask that question? Would you talk in that tone? Would you address the instructor that way? Always just when in doubt, if you have any questions, assume that physical classroom setting. Pretend you're in that physical aspect. And communication is going to be key with your fellow students, with your instructor, and with me. I'm always here. I'm in your Canvas classes if you're in the certificate program, and I'm very accessible. So if you do have questions throughout your course, you know how to contact me.
Sure.
So that's all I have for you on this topic. Do you guys have any questions for me?
No, I don't have any.
Okay, great. And if you think of any later, feel free to contact me.
Sure, I'll do that. Yeah.
Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
And have a great rest of your day.
You too. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.